Let's get one thing straight. I am only a fan of the Arizona Coyotes. I'm not a player. I've never been a player. I'm not formally involved with the organization. I've never been formally involved with this organization. So, with that being said, there are people whose lives will truly, and I mean truly, be affected by this potential, because as of right now, that's what it is, potential relocation. So now that we got that out there, I don't want to see any comments about like, oh, dude, there's people with real problems. You're right. There's people with real problems in the world. This is a very first world problem to deal with, right? Here I am, a guy going on YouTube to complain about his favorite hockey team leaving and potentially leaving. Let's get one thing straight, okay? We can throw out those memes. I ain't hear no bell. Because the fact of the matter is that we have heard no official bell yet. The NHL has yet to publicly address this. Coyotes ownership has kind of addressed it with one roundabout response. But that's really where we are right now. A lot of hearsay. But that doesn't change the fact that I am sitting here today heartbroken. Absolutely heartbroken. Now, before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about what people love about sports. And I really can't talk on behalf of all people, but what I can talk about is what sports means to me. And maybe it'll resonate with you, maybe it won't. But the true beauty of sports and in sports is this: the comfort of it. The fact that you're part of a community of people. You go to a game, an event on X, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. You go to a situation where you are exposed to that franchise in any capacity via fans or the event itself, and you're part of something. You're automatically part of a community, right? You might not know the person sitting next to you at the stadium or the arena, but that doesn't matter. While you're sitting there cheering for the same team, or maybe even not, there's a camaraderie there, right? There's a respect there. There's a we're in this together mentality. You cheer together, you boo together, you cry together. And there's comfort in that. There's beauty in that. So many different things try to create those memorable experiences that just can't be duplicated with anything else besides sports. That's the beauty of it. It's you can't explain why you're so happy or sad, but you feel it. You feel attached to something. You grow to love something that most of the time continuously breaks your heart. You start to really believe that this business, because that's what every single sports franchise is, a business. You start to realize or to trick yourself into thinking, sorry, my allergies are going crazy, that they love you back. And you know deep inside they don't. But for those couple minutes, hours, months, years, you trick yourself into thinking, you know what, they love me back. Maybe it's the team doing something for you. Maybe it's a giveaway. Maybe it's them liking a post you made on social media. Maybe it's them giving you free tickets. Maybe it's the one of your favorite players or just a player signing something for you. You convince that they love you back. You tell yourself they love you back. It's this community something. And The hardest thing is the kick to the gut when you realize that the city doesn't love you back, the town doesn't love you back, the organization doesn't love you back, the players don't love you back, the owner doesn't love you back. And then you start to have that emptiness inside of you when you realize that it's true, that everything you've told yourself is a lie. It was a lie. It's not accurate. And that's the blessing and the curse of sports. Hey, this is awesome. They love me back. This is great. And then you get the lows. The highest of the highs, the lowest of the lows, and everything in between. But that's the beauty in sports. That's what makes sports magical and special. It's those highs that you can't replicate. And to an extent, it's the lows that you can't replicate as well. I've been an Arizona Coyotes fan since 2016. Needless to say, that's not nearly as long as some other people who grew up with this team. I'm a 29-year-old man. I haven't shed any tears on this yet, and perhaps it's because it's not over. I've heard from a lot of people that there's a 95% chance that the Arizona Coyotes are moving to Salt Lake, and it's as good as done. But perhaps it's that 5% that's keeping everything in. And I've had moments today listening to Arizona Coyotes coverage and podcasts and looking at the posts and making AI images and marinating on what I wanted to say. I've been able to come to peace a little bit. I fought back the tears, and I know inevitably when the news officially comes, if it does, and I'm going to dread the day that it does. I know it's not too far away if it is coming. I know what's in store. I know the emptiness that's going to come. As stated, I've been a fan since 2016. Before that, I wasn't a fan of hockey. Hockey was a joke to me. It was a meme. That's all it was. It was something my buddies and I would kind of laugh at. Maybe we'd play the video game here and there growing up. But that's the extent of it. That was the extent of my hockey knowledge. The extent of my hockey fandom. In 2016, a group of friends and I went to Arizona Fall League to watch Tim Tebow, yes, the Tim Tebow, play minor league baseball in the Arizona Fall League, which is where they take some of minor league baseball's most coveted prospects, put six of them from every organization on the same field. Well, not the same field, but, they field some teams and they go from there. So we watched Tim Tebow play, and we were done for the evening. The game was over. We went to Jimmy John's right there in next to Camelback Ranch, I believe the stadium's called, where the White Sox and the Dodgers call home. At Jimmy John's, and we were like, let's go do something tonight. And lo and behold, the Arizona Coyotes were right there at the Gila River Arena, is what it was called at the time. And they had the Westgate Plaza there. So we went to the mall. We went to Dave & Buster's, had an AMF, yes, the drink, before we went into the arena. And I watched my first hockey game. And I didn't think much of it, right? It was a way to kill the time. It was something to do. It was an experience I can cross off my bucket list and say, hey, I went to an NHL game. I did it. It was cool, whatever. We're never going back. But I didn't know that was a day that I was going to fall in love with the National Hockey League. I didn't know that was the day I was going to fall in love with the Arizona Coyotes. The Arizona Coyotes were one of the worst teams in hockey in 2016, and they have been for the greater part of their existence since they moved over from Winnipeg. And that's not a controversial take to say. They had some very early on success. And after 2012, it's been almost nothing besides one playoff appearance that they got lucky to make in 2020 because of coronavirus. And that game made me fall in love with hockey and the game because of this. The Arizona Coyotes were down, and memory serves correctly, they were down 3-1. It was the third period, and they scored two very, very, very late and clutch goals to force overtime against the Nashville Predators, okay? And then there we went to overtime where it's 3-on-3, And meanwhile, Anthony Duclair had his stick, it broke, and now he's having to play defense with no stick. He's like kicking the puck away. And I'm just sitting there like, this is awesome. Absolutely awesome. And it was exciting. It was thrilling. The fans were there. There was fans there because the Arizona Coyotes routinely, all I've ever heard since jumping on the bandwagon that day is they don't have fans. They don't have a devoted franchise. Nobody goes to their games. Well, people were there that day. And no, they weren't all Nashville Predator fans. There was a lot of Coyotes fans there that day. And I saw how excited they got when the Arizona Coyotes forced a shootout and they won in a shootout. And that was the day. I said, I love this. I'm going to love this organization because my mentality was, no, they weren't good. But you know what they were? They were gritty that day. I liked that. I've always loved the underdog. I'm an Angels fan, I'm a Coyotes fan, and I'm a Broncos fan. And I use the term Broncos fan loosely because I really jumped off the bandwagon after they lost to the Seahawks. That was 2014-ish, 2015-ish. And then they won Super Bowl 50. And I mean, I was working at SeaWorld that day. I didn't even want to take the day off because I didn't care enough to watch. I saw them win the game. I was there for the fourth quarter at home, so I did get to see them win, but it didn't hit the same. But I've been all in on the Coyotes since 2016, the same way I've been all in on the Angels. And that's what I've really used hockey to. Baseball is life for me. It has been, and I've been very fortunate enough, blessed to have an Angels podcast over the last 3 years. I've met some very, very good, some life-changing friends doing it. And I'm fortunate enough to have a platform and a community at that not only listens to what I have to say, they support us in our charitable causes. We've never made a penny off that show. We've lost thousands of dollars doing that podcast, and I love every second of it. And what little money we've made, whenever we get some money back or maybe some sponsors throw in a little bit of cash our way for throwing their name out there, we've donated every single penny of it and more to charitable causes. I mean, when I say we are in the red, I mean, it's like black, purple, dark red, whatever term you want to use. But we are not just in the red. We are in the red of red, okay? We are like the United States National Treasury debt. That we're in the trillions of trillions. You know what I mean? Like, that's an exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is I love what I do. And I love that I not only have a platform, but I have the ability to try to do a little bit of good with it. Just a little bit. Sponsor a special needs baseball team, so those kids don't have to worry about funding or their parents paying for it. Providing meals to minor league baseball players. Helping spread the word about how little minor leaguers were getting paid. Donating backpacks to kids in need. That's just a couple of things. And we've also made small donations. Like sometimes we get guests on, and I tell the guest, hey, as a thank you, I want to give a small donation to a charity of your choice. So the point is, I've been blessed enough to have a platform with baseball, but I've never had one with hockey. And this is just me using what little tiny platform I can to share my true feelings about how devastated I am as an Arizona Coyotes fan that the ownership group has failed them. Ownership has failed them. And here's why. A lot of people continuously say that the Coyotes don't have fans. And I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. You can say they don't have a large fan base, and you are right in your right to say that. You're right. The Coyotes don't have the NHL's biggest fan base. And you know what? That's okay. Excuse me. I can tell you this much. They have one of the most devoted fan bases because that organization hasn't given us fans much to cheer for. And we're continuously there. We get kicked in the nuts. We get hit in the nuts. We get a smart car driven into our nuts, and we keep signing up for it. I don't get it. I'll never understand the hatred directly aimed at the fans. If you want to blame the Coyotes ownership groups of the past for the way they've handled the organization, for the mistakes they've made, for relocating the team to Glendale, which should have never happened. Every hardcore Arizona Coyote fan will tell you that. Every platform will tell you that. Every beat writer will tell you that. Everybody will tell you the Arizona Coyotes should have never, ever, come to infinity, moved to Glendale, and it's the biggest mistake they made, and they are still paying for that in perpetuity today. And it's most likely going to be the force that drives them out of Arizona. When I fell in love with this team in 2016, I made a promise. Like, hey, if I'm jumping on this bandwagon, I'm going to religiously follow them. And I have. I've never lived in Arizona in my life, ever. I've lived in various parts of California, San Diego, Corona, Ramona, and now I live in Texas. I lived in a small town about 30 minutes outside of Dallas, and now I live in Fort Worth, Texas. So I've never lived in Arizona. There's people who grew up watching this team. And I hope you guys know that though I don't live there and I've never lived there, my heart is still just as broken. There's people out there who probably have way more touching stories. That much I get. That much I understand. I'm not here to compete with them. I'm here to suffer with them. The word sympathize is a Greek word. It comes from a Greek word. And its origin phrase means to suffer with. To sympathize with somebody is to suffer with them. And I can suffer with them because I know the loss they're taking. It's harder for me to get to Arizona Coyotes games, but I've done it. I do it. I fly out there. I've never gone to go to the Mullet, but I went to Gila River Arena probably about 10 times. And the fact that I don't have the opportunity to one day take my children to a game is heartbreaking. To think that there's players and there's staff members who now have to find a new place to live, to think that there's a lot of other people like me who have devoted their time to fighting off fans who were like, oh, who cares about the Coyotes? Oh, Gary Bettman's little pet project in Arizona, they should have been gone a long time ago. Fuck those fans. They don't have fans. We do. We have hearts. We have feelings. We've devoted our energy, our time, our money. And say what you want about money. Money is a renewable asset, right? It's going to come back. Maybe you don't make a lot of it, but money does come back. You know what's never going to come back? The time I've spent and others have spent to watching this organization, believing everything they've said, to fighting off the internet trolls. That's the stuff we're never going to get back. Time's the most valuable asset I have, you have, and anybody will ever have. And we're never going to get that back. I lived in San Diego when the Chargers left. I know what it did to that city. On my Angels podcast, literally days ago, 2 days ago now, I brought on a guy named Gamer_Athletics, and he talked about what it's like for him to lose his Oakland Athletics. He said it's like a member of your family has died. And I didn't think much of it. I mean, I did tell him in the beginning, hey, I know what you're going through because I'm an Arizona Coyotes fan. And I know what it's like to lose your team. But the difference was back then, it was always a rumor. It was always something that it was just always in the back of our minds. Hey, this team might leave one day. But it was always just an empty threat. Nothing ever came of it. But now we're in a situation where it's just about real. It's about as real as it can get without actually happening. And I'm heartbroken. He's absolutely correct. It's as if one of my best friends died. It's as if I've lost, an aunt or an uncle, somebody who's close to me. I don't know how to feel. It's as if I'm lied to. It's as if all this just needs to come to an end because it's a dream we're going to wake up from. And don't worry, because tomorrow the Arizona Coyotes hockey is going to be there the way it has been since I fell in love with this team all that many years ago. Through thick and thin, they've been there. Every time I would go to Arizona, they've been there. When I played the video game, they've been there. At the end of a rough work day, they've been there. On those long work trips when I didn't have friends and I didn't have family for 2 weeks and I was all on my lonesome. Nothing besides an Xbox and nothing else but, my phone. And that was my attachment to people. That's what I had. At least the Arizona Coyotes were there. One of the biggest pieces of this story, and once again, this isn't a woe is me because there's people who are legitimately affected by this. This is me going on social media to just share a little bit of my feelings and to share the sentiment that I know just a few Arizona Coyote fans have. What little of us there are, yes, we don't have a large fan base, but we have a devoted fan base who continuously gives our energy to this team who doesn't love us back. And once again, the fact of the matter is this: no matter what team in what sport you support, the team does not love you back. It's this. It's now they might not be there. It's the fact that the camaraderie, the community just might not exist anymore. Just poof, up in flames. This logo won't mean anything anymore. The small amounts of memorabilia, the most memorabilia I have is baseball based because my life is baseball. It's been baseball. And hockey helps bridge the gap from when my Angels get eliminated in September, because we all know they don't make the playoffs, to when spring training rolls around. Hockey's there. It's been there to fill the void for me. It's giving me podcasts. It's giving me outlets. It's giving me friends that doesn't exist anymore. And a lot of people are just going to say, who cares if they move to Salt Lake? Just follow the new team. Who cares, dude? It's sports. But you don't just jump from one bandwagon to the other. That's not how it works. Sure, you can buy the merchandise for the new team. You can watch the new team, but there's no emotion attached to it. You're not a part of that community yet. And that's the toughest thing. That's the toughest thing that you have to let go of. And the Arizona Coyotes have gotten me through a lot. Maybe not to the extent that some others have. Like I said, there's been people who have been fans longer. And there's some people who are going to continue to be fans. But it can't and won't be me if it's not the Arizona Coyotes. And there's a lot of people saying, okay, well, here's what's going to happen, right? So here's right now what the official speculation is, if I can say that. So right now, the word is that Alex Morello bought this team for, I think it was about $435 million. It was somewhere in that ballpark, from $430 million to $550 million. He bought the team in 2019, I believe. And then he has lost money continuously from this franchise because right now they're playing in a hockey arena. Yep, it's a college arena. It fits 5,000 people max. For hockey, it's more like 4,600. But the reason why the NHL has wanted the Phoenix market is because they have one of the biggest media markets. And nobody can dispute that. They absolutely do. They have one of the biggest population areas. And because of that, of course, they get corporate revenue. And that's really why the NHL wants them there. You know what? They might not have the attendance all the time. They might not have the merchandise sales that, the Toronto Maple Leafs have, that the New York Rangers have. But the Coyotes, for a very small market team, the least valuable team out of the four major sports, because I think that's official. I don't think any in NHL, MLB, NFL, and the NBA, the Arizona Coyotes are worth the absolute least amount of money. Alex Morello bought him dirt cheap, right? And what he does is he takes depleted assets. That's what he's made his whole career off of, taking assets that are stripped down, worth nothing. He strips them down even more to the skeleton, and then he holds on to it. That's typically what he does, okay? And that was his hope with the Arizona Coyotes. And now we are in a position where the ownership is currently about to fail the fans. And it's hard to blame them to an extent because the NHL, this is speculation, official speculation, sure, but these reports are out there and they're starting to leak out there. You can find them almost everywhere. Gary Bettman and the NHL have offered Alex Morello $1 billion with a B, which for him, I mean, that's almost $600 million in profit, right? And sure, he's lost some money. So we'll say somewhere in the ballpark of $400 million. There's not a lot of us that would say no to a $400 million profit, especially knowing that he's a couple years away from making money off of this, right? That's what it is. You still have to build an arena. And I think that's what Arizona Coyote fans are hurt about the most. So the NHL has been saying, hey, we're going to give them a chance. We're going to give the Morello group a chance. We're going to give them a chance, okay? They had these unofficial deadlines. They kept passing them. And Gary Bettman and the NHL kept saying, it's fine. We're going to give them the opportunity. Let them talk. Let them figure it out. And all of a sudden, last week, we found out that, hey, the state trust land, 110 acres, the Arizona Coyotes on June 27th are going to have the opportunity to buy the land. And it's expected to be a little north of $600 million. Alex Morello said, hey, I'm going to bring my checkbook. And everyone has speculated, hey, he's probably going to win that land. 70% of this state trust land that goes up for auction doesn't have another buyer. So chances are it would have been uncontested. So the NHL let Alex Morello get to that point, right? To the point where this is news that's being reported. We saw the renderings became public. And a lot of people who aren't NHL fans or Coyotes fans were like, you know what? That's pretty cool. That stadium renderings, I like that. It's pretty awesome. But then this happens. The rug gets ripped underneath all Coyotes fans. And yesterday it started with, hey, the NHL's made two schedules. One if they stay in Arizona, one if they relocate to Salt Lake City. And the Smith Group buys them. Because that is who would be buying the Coyotes from the NHL. Because here's the thing. If Alex Morello sells to the Smith Group in Salt Lake directly, there's a transition period, right? But if Alex Morello sells to the NHL, there's no transition period, baby. Here's your Billy with a B. The Smith Group is going to buy the Coyotes for $1.2 billion. And who's the Smith Group, you might ask? Well, they own the Utah Jazz. They're going to buy it for $1.2 billion. So boom, everyone's happy. Alex Morello makes a profit. The NHL makes a profit. And now Salt Lake gets a team. And it happened overnight. Literally. It happened overnight. Talk about cucking your fans. Talk about cream pieing your fans. We've already been kicked in the nuts again and again and again. And now we don't even get to say goodbye to our team. That's the biggest takeaway I have here. If anybody from the Coyotes organization in any capacity watches this video, I don't care if it's your mom's friend's cousin who's the secretary who knows Alex Morello. You tell them the only thing I request from the Arizona Coyotes is the truth. If this team is gone, please tell us. because if the last game as the Arizona Coyotes is on Wednesday, I want to know. I want to be prepared. I'm going to be glued to my TV every second of the day here in my man cave watching that game. And every time I get a tweet notification right now, it's immediately check it because you don't know. What if this is a tweet that officially announces the Coyotes are leaving? There's a lot of people whose lives are affected here. And mine is not directly affected in any way, shape, or form. Does it feel like I'm losing a family member? Yes. Does it feel like one of my best friends has died? Yes. Am I heartbroken? Absolutely. And if anyone's going to make fun of me for that, that's fine. But I'm a devoted fan who has followed this team for 8 years when I fell in love with hockey that day. It wasn't like I was a fan of another NHL team and I did this. I made the conscious decision that day to like the worst team in hockey in that game in 2016. Maybe that's my mistake, but I love cheering for the underdog. I love fans hating me because why do you like that team? You grew up in San Diego. Why are you an Angels fan? Because you're not. That's why I'm an Angels fan. Why am I an Arizona Coyotes fan? Because nobody in San Diego was. Nobody in Anaheim was when I lived there. Nobody is here in Fort Worth, Texas. That's why I'm an Arizona Coyotes fan. Because you're not. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty in sports. Stick it to the man, right? Heartbroken. Heartbroken's the only word I can use right now. I've been rambling. And one of the biggest things that I'm going to close out this video with, because this isn't goodbye yet. The fat lady's cleared her throat. She did her breathing exercises, her singing exercises, the la 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 la. She did everything. I'm not a singer, so don't judge me for that la la la. The fat lady's getting her pipes ready. And the guy has the ding, ding, ding bell ready. But the bell hasn't been rung yet. The fat lady has yet to sing. They're both ready. But I ain't hear no bell. And the fat lady ain't singing yet. Hockey the hard way is what the Arizona Coyotes have said for the last couple of years. And the hard way is right. Not for the organization, but for us fans. It's tough. It's heartbreaking. And I don't think I'll be able to cheer for the NHL the same way. Because a lot of people are speculating, well, hey, all Alex Morello has to do after the Coyotes relocate is build that arena that he wants to build. Buy the land, build the arena, and they're going to get a relocation team. They're going to get an expansion team. My apologies. They're going to get an expansion team. And that expansion team is going to be called the Arizona Coyotes because they are allowed to keep the name. They're allowed to keep the logo. It's not going to go to Utah. And that's fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, why? Why would the NHL do that? Because Alex Morello did so well the first time? Guys, if the Arizona Coyotes are gone, I can tell you that my love of hockey is probably going to die with them. And I see somebody here, move them to Quebec City. We've been there and we've done that. Here, we really love hockey. I get that. I understand that you guys love hockey over there. But that doesn't change the fact that this is my team. Maybe not for long. And this time next week, there's a very good chance, a week from today, actually, that I might be saying the complete opposite, that this is no longer my team. There's a lot of Coyotes fans I've seen on Twitter talking about being angry at ownership and burning their stuff if they leave. And that's not going to be me. Because I wear this shirt, I think about the happy memories. I think about the times where I went with my father to a game. After I dragged him to spring training, my friends. I went with my girlfriend here. When what very well could be my last Arizona Coyotes game. The Arizona Coyotes were here in Dallas, and like I said, I live in Fort Worth, so about 30 miles, same market. They were here last month, and we had just had a hardship with our situation here at the time. I took a pay cut also. We had the hardship, the personal one that I can't share here. And now I took a pay cut about 2 weeks before to work for a different company. So money wasn't something that we were rolling in at that time. And I had a good friend, a longtime friend, say, "Hey, I know you want to go to a hockey game. Your Coyotes are coming to town. Let's go." And my girlfriend just wasn't feeling up to it. And, I still kind of wasn't either. But boy, oh boy, if I would have known that that was going to be the last chance I had to see my desert dogs in person wearing these beautiful Kachina jerseys, seeing them lose in person one last time. See, I figure that the more I dunk on myself, the less likely I'm going to be to get made fun of in the comments. Watching my team lose in person, and yeah, they lose all the time when I've seen them. I've seen them in person like probably 20 times, and I think they've only won like 5 or 6 times. But I'm always there when I can. Just because they lose doesn't mean I don't love the team. And that's gone now. And the last thing that I didn't share for a reason, because I wanted to save it for last. This team got me through the darkest period of my life. When I moved to Texas, I was married, had a house. She had a child from her first marriage. And obviously, he's not my blood child because it was from her first marriage. And we got divorced. Him and I were able to maintain a friendship, fathership, whatever term you can use, for about 2 months. And then afterward, we got in some kind of argument because she stopped paying her phone bill or whatever. And her family made this whole stick about like, "Oh, well, you owe us money for this, and that." Anyway, that's a topic for, a personal thing. But then just to give you a little bit of idea of what I was dealing with personally. So I went through the divorce, wasn't able to see him anymore. And now I'm stuck here in Texas. I was stuck here in Texas. No friends, no family. I had literally no friends here. Some people say that being dramatic and they have a couple of friends. I had zero. My family's back in California. And now I'm fortunate enough and blessed enough to be in a situation where I'm with this wonderful woman with a wonderful family, and they love me very much and they accept me. And now I have family here, a true family. But last season, when I sat alone in my apartment, and here's the part where I knew I was going to start to get emotional. And I had nothing, no friends, no family. The Arizona Coyotes were there. All those nights that I was close to crying myself to sleep because I didn't have anybody. I was going through a divorce. I lost everything. The house I worked years for, my car, all that was lost in the divorce. You know what I did have? I might not have had a friend to hold me, and I might not have had my parents there to hold me. Yes, they were there to listen over the phone, but for anyone who's been through a breakup or a divorce, especially when your friends weren't physically there to hold you and your mom or your dad weren't there to hug you, it's hard. It's the hardest thing in the world. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But you know who was there? The Coyotes, day in and day out. The podcast, the coverage, they were there. And that might not be there anymore. And that's the hardest thing. I'm fortunate enough now to be in a situation where I have a support system here now, but I didn't back then. And perhaps that's the beauty of it. Perhaps now at least I know I won't have to go through it alone. And that's kind of the nice part in it. Now I have this support system, and maybe now I don't need the Coyotes like I did. But that doesn't change the fact that I wanted them. I wanted them to still be around, and I wanted to have children that I could take to a game and that I could have fallen in love with the team the way I did. But that's not going to happen now. All I can say is this. If anybody in the organization in any capacity is listening, or if you have access to the organization, all I ask is this. I beg, I plead on behalf of every single Arizona Coyotes fan, please tell us. Don't leave us in the dark. Don't let us suffer. Just tell us. I'd rather have a shot to the heart than 10 to the leg and bleed out, 10 to the gut and bleed out. Get us in the heart, shoot us in the head, take us out of our misery, take old Yeller behind the shed and end it, because that's what the Coyotes are. I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. Though I've only been a fan for like 8 years, a devoted fan for 8 years, I've religiously followed this team. I bought the merchandise. I've watched the games. I've defended them. Put us out of our misery. End it now. Tell us we're leaving. I'm selling the team. But I'll tell you this. No matter what, because I know we're not going to get that answer. For the next 3 days, the next 3 games, that the Coyotes are on TV, I'm going to be glued to that television. I'm going to soak it in. And I'm going to appreciate it for whatever it's worth, because my love of hockey is going to die when they leave. And it's not going to be the same if the Yotes come back as an expansion team, because it's not the same players. I've fallen in love with the idea of a rebuild and these young guys are starting to come up, and even when they lose, at least there's something exciting because hope's around the corner. Bill Armstrong has put together a great scouting department. They've drafted well. They're starting to build well. And we bought in. We were getting close. Not anymore. All that might be over. All the time, energy, and emotion could be wasted. Please just tell us, put us out of our misery. To my fellow Arizona Coyote fans, all we can do right now is hope. Hope, appreciate, and just see what happens. I'd like to lie and say that this is all a joke, that Ashton Kutcher is going to come out and say, psych, you guys have been bunked. But I think this is it. The other relocation rumors were simply that. This isn't a rumor anymore. This is real. And that's what breaks my heart the most. Hang in there, because tomorrow is going to be a new day. The sun's going to come up, and eventually enough suns are going to come up, and when the puck drops on the 2024 to 2025 season, Arizona Coyote hockey might not be here, but we will. Families will be displaced, and I don't know what that future holds for us. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll never know. But it's not looking good. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go ahead. Dunk on me in the comments. Make fun of me for crying. But hopefully you'll at least understand why I love this team. That's the beauty in sports. It's always there. Whether your team is or not, sports are there. The community's there. That's all I have to say. Go ahead, dunk on me in the comments, make fun of me, make fun of us, and finally the failed experiment's over in Arizona, because I don't want to hear it anymore. If you're gonna make fun of me and you're gonna make fun of my fellow fans for being there and supporting our team,